Is it safer and better to live in Southeast Asia now? Today, I want to talk about what you can expect in Asia living out here as a foreigner. So, the most common questions I get asked about this is moving abroad worth it? Can it still be done in 2024 and beyond? What can somebody that moves out here to Asia, what can you actually do besides just teach English? And when you come out here, does your money get you farther? And the most obvious one out of all of this is when you do come out here, what can you actually do with your life for the next 10, 20 years? So let's start off with the most basic, most common question I typically get asked about, and that's safety abroad. We know in America that there's a lot of political violence, there's a lot of immigration issues, there's a lot of disputable civil wars going on, gang war, there's shootings, there's school issues. I could go on. Now, does this reflect what you would actually deal with in Asia? And I'm going to say, as somebody, as a foreigner, you're going to get treated different. You're going to be looked at different. We're going to talk about that later on in this video. But when it comes to the crime itself, it's petty. It's very minute. The big crime that happens is not like the West where it's very open. It's public. It's on the media. Like, this is happening. That's happening. Immigration this. Robberies this. Stores closing down this. We don't see that stuff in Asia. These are things that happen kind of under the rug, and we just never get involved with it. Any kind of crime that happens against you is typically going to be some kind of like a petty theft thing. You will generally be more safer on average. Now, the next one is the cost of living and inflation itself. Now, we know high inflation in America is getting crazy. The real estate prices are going out the roof. A dozen eggs costs like $500 now. Gas is $10, $12 a gallon. Healthcare is just unimaginably out of control. So when it comes to living in Asia with the cost of living, you're going to be able to live within your means without even really having to try. And this is going to deal a lot with your real estate. So when you're renting a house or a condo, your rents are going to be way low. You're talking $300 to $500, $700 a month. You can get up to $1,200 a month for a really nice condo or even a big house. And also, healthcare is a cheap thing out here. If you need to get dental done, any health concerns done, it's typically way cheaper. One thing that I think a lot of people start realizing when they came out here is American healthcare is some of the most expensive in the world. So when you come out to Asia as an American, you're going to see a massive discount in the cost. And a lot of these costs, you can just pay cash because you have so much extra money laid around. And when I say so much money, I mean, we're talking probably like $300 to $500 to get most things done. Dental work, you get a whole grill redone for like $1,000 sometimes. And when it comes to like surgeries, big surgeries, serious stuff, you're looking $3,000 to $6,000 kind of thing. When it comes to just your basic checkups, when I do my checkups for work permits, I think I paid right about like $7. And that gave me my blood work, the urine test, basic health, x-rays, breathing checks. Like, they did so many things, and it was like $9. Now, when it comes to your day-to-day expenses, they're going to be way cheap. Food's a lot cheaper. It's a lot healthier too. So you might actually notice you start eating less. In America, most of our food, like, it's something like 85% of food in grocery stores, like Safeways, Fred Meyer's, Albertsons, is processed junk. So anything you see in these supermarkets that has some kind of a nutrient fact label on it, it's typically refined as processed. When you come out here to Asia, obviously we have dirty food out here. Like, you see how street vendors are, you see stuff like that, but it's more organic based. And when I say organic, it's not processed heavily. Obviously you can buy Frito-Lays, you can buy all these chips, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, stuff like that. It is processed. It's corn syrup. Cool. It's all bad for you. You probably shouldn't do that. Oil is typically gutter oil. Even brand new oil you buy at a store, sometimes it's gutter oil. China is a massive proof of this, as they do it at a massive scale. They sell it to places like Vietnam and Thailand. So your cost of living for food is going to be way low. Your rents are going to be low. Your healthcare is going to be low. And then when it just comes to like transportation, stuff like that, you can get a motorbike for like $2,000, like a really nice one, brand new. Never worry about anything again. But these are kind of like minute things. But overall, if you had about $1,200 to $1,500 a month out here in Southeast Asia, you would be okay. Now, the next one is a bit off, but it does get to a lot of people. And there's a lot of people out there talking about Trump, Biden, Harris, all these people, right? I don't really care. When people ask me about this question, I kind of roll my eyes because I don't care. No president is going to make you change your life and improve your life. Only you can make you that good, right? So when it comes to that political division, that stress, that anxiety that you deal with in America, for example, you don't deal with that in Vietnam. You're actually encouraged not to talk about this stuff. This is a good thing for you. because you don't really have an idea of a lot of this stuff already. So you talking about it makes no sense. So you don't have to worry about this political thing. You're not going to go to a Vietnamese bar or a Bangkok bar and some guy's going to say the king this and Vietnam this and yeah. This stuff doesn't happen. And this is an awesome thing about Asia is the political awareness and debates and the worry ideas are gone because most people don't care. Now, the next one's about community, people, friends. You know, you grow up in America, you have your friends, your childhood friends, you marry your sweetheart, your parents and your grandparents all kind of live in the same communities or states. This is what makes the West, I think, such an amazing place. When it comes to Asia, you don't have this anymore. As a foreigner, you're going to have a hard time keeping friends because most are going to go back to their country after a couple of years. And that's perfectly fine. Most people that come out here only last like 2 or 3 years. It's kind of like a fling, it's a trip, it's whatever it is, but they enjoy their time around Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, whatever. They're a teacher and they just fly back home and go back out about their lives. This is actually something I see that destroys a lot more of the women than it does the men, but you're going to face loneliness at some point. You're going to lose all your friends because they all go back home, especially if you get a job as a teacher. You're going to see teachers come and go so fast. When I first got my very first job in 2015, there was like 13 or 14 of us. Within like 4 months, half of them went back home to their countries, back to Europe, America, Australia, wherever they're from. There was nothing against the country of Vietnam. They were just like, that was fun. I'm going back home. I miss my mother. I miss my father. I miss my home. I think I'm going to go back to my old job. I was just out here for the thrills for a semester. I didn't plan on staying long term anyways. Because of that, I lost half my friends. And then by the end of that year, when most people's contracts ended, almost everyone left but like 2 people. Nothing is ever long term out here. So keep that in mind. Be prepared. When you do meet new expats, new friends, don't take it for granted. Enjoy the times. Exchange contacts so you can talk down the road. Now, when it comes to staying in Southeast Asia long term, there's always a question of how. Do you get married? Do you get a job? Do you get an investor visa? Is there a nomad visa? You need to really look into this stuff. A lot of people I meet that come out here, they have this idea, I'm going to open business. I'm going to get a work permit and just work for myself. This doesn't work because you need to have partnerships out here. You need to have a massive amount of money, as in like $120,000, $70,000 to invest into a local bank to even start these companies. So staying abroad, there's different ways. And again, you can be a teacher. Typically, it's 1 to 3 year contracts. You have to keep working. You can get married. This will give you temporary residence in Vietnam. Places like Japan offer like employment, long-term citizenship. I believe Singapore offers something, or Indonesia does, where you can kind of buy your way into the citizenship. So there are many ways to go. The most common way people stay out here long-term, though, is working or marriage. Those are the 2 big ones. And then the last one, when it comes to staying abroad, is just the language. Make sure you understand some of the language. If you're going to stay out here long term, it's good to learn it. Like really, like this will make it night and day difference. You'll be more involved in the community. You won't get scammed as much. The last part of this though is retirement. This is something that comes up a lot. Places like Vietnam, you can't legally retire. You have to get married out here. And that doesn't even guarantee you that you only get a 5-year residence card. That's temporary. You still have to renew it. The government still has to approve it. Even if you're married, they can be like, no, 5 years was enough. Go back to your country. If you are trying to retire out here, do your research. There is so much fake news. My advice, just ask ChatGPT. Hey, can I retire in this country? Sure. How? What are the legal government documents that talk about this? Translate them to English for me. And you'll notice places like Vietnam, places like Cambodia, places like China, they will actually show you documents that legitimately say you cannot retire here. Go home. Make sure you do your research on retirement. Now, the next one, getting off to the retirement idea, is the healthcare stuff. Most of Asia lacks the most modern things of healthcare. So if you're trying to get chemotherapy for cancers, tumor removals and stuff like that, it can get tricky. There are hospitals in Thailand and Vietnam that can help you with this. Japan and Taiwan are typically the go-to spots. Singapore is another go-to spot if you have something serious. But let me cut this one short and just save you a lot of time. When you come out to Asia, you will stop eating a lot of processed foods. This is what causes a lot of these cancers. This is what causes a lot of these problems. You'll also, over time, grow up and be an adult. You'll stop drinking as much. You'll stop smoking as much. You're not going to be a dork and vape. You're going to eat healthier naturally. I've noticed this with my friends that get married. No matter where it is in Asia, once they get married, their diet changes 100%. And it's not like because they had to. It's just because that's what the mother-in-law makes. That's what the wife makes, is just healthy food. You just get used to it. So healthcare is there. It is rather cheap. If you do want to get like healthcare plans, there's very few that offer any. There are international nomad ones that offer, but the thing with those, you have to use them at international hospitals. International hospitals are expensive, man. Like to get a checkup is like $170 in the Saigon one. But if you just go to a local hospital, they do the same exact thing for like $9. Now let's get to a sensitive topic, and I want to talk slow about this, but I want to bring it in. Places like America, Canada, Europe, and stuff like that. When an Asian person, a Middle Eastern person, an African person moves to these countries, they're overall accepted as part of the community. You see this in a lot of Mexican Americans. They pass their citizenship. They're Americans. Everybody looks at them like Americans, right? When it comes to Asia, you truly will never be accepted. You will never truly be part of the community or the people. You can get married. You can be out here for 10 years, and the people you know that you've been out for 10 years. Your wife's sister, she gets married. And you go to the wedding, and the same father-in-law that was at your wedding will be like, whoa, you can use chopsticks? You'll never truly be accepted as a local. You're going to be looked at crazy when you use chopsticks sometimes. They're going to be shocked when you speak Vietnamese. Asia doesn't have this kind of like immigration process we have in the West, where in places like America and Europe and the UK and Australia, it's just kind of like a big pot of different nationalities kind of molded together where it is acceptable. If you're a Vietnamese, you move to America, nobody's going to look at you and say, oh, you can use a fork? So in all, understand this isn't a racial thing. This isn't a hateful thing. This isn't anything past ignorance. Even if you come out here and have kids that are half Western and half Asian, they're going to get hassled at school. So this is just part of the culture. Now, the last one before we get out of here is just working in Asia. When it comes to Southeast Asia, everyone thinks of English. Like that's your only job. Do you have any other jobs out here? The answer is yes and no, depending where you go. Places like Singapore, Thailand, Japan, there are different opportunities. You can definitely go out and be like, work for like restaurants. You can work for IT firms. You can work for engineering firms. Singapore is heavy for engineering, IT, and marketing, business management. So you have those options. Places like Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and China, you're kind of restricted to English, unfortunately. Vietnam does have options in Vung Tau if you're a chemical engineer or engineer in general. You can work for the PV oil. Place like Cambodia, you might find a factory to work at, but I mean, do you want to work for those wages? I've met a lot of Western people, mostly South Africans, that get married to a lot of people that open a bar. They're not making a lot of money, but they're making enough to get by, and they're happy with it. And then China, good luck. I mean, every Western firm has left China at this point, so I don't think you can even find any job out there. My advice: check the link below. Get a TEFL. It's like an insurance card for you. So if shit hits the fan, you can at least be a teacher. That's all you need really is a TEFL. You do need a degree in most of the countries out here, but a TEFL will at least get you an under the table job if you're really struggling for cash. So in short, if you are planning on coming out here, do your research. Why are you coming out here? Are you coming out here to retire? Are you coming out here to work short term? Are you coming out here to invest and start a company? Definitely have yourself a 3 to 5 year plan. Definitely have yourself at least 5-6 grand laid around in actual cash that is theirs, like a security blanket. If you see my older videos, I always talked about opening a business out here. I always talked about this and that. I always had a plan. So make sure you have a plan. Asia is becoming very competitive. It's becoming very challenging for Asian people and Western people alike. So you need to come out here. You need to have a plan. Whatever that plan is, have it. Understand what you're trying to do in these countries. You come to Vietnam to retire. You come to Vietnam to get married. Cool, cool, cool. What are the legalities and what's required before you come out here? It's really that simple. So any other question, guys, let me know below. I'm happy to answer for you. But with that being said, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching. I will see you again.